Hi, welcome back to Frazzle Dad's Minis channel. I'm Jim, Frazzle Dad. Uh, Today I'm gonna be doing a practice session, and I'm going to be working on this piece, which is a really neat sculpt from Scientific Models. It's Cobalt, and it's a young boy working in a cobalt mine. It's a pretty fascinating bit of content and some commentary about the cost. Also, I've never worked on painting black skin, so this was a good chance to do some experimentation and learn a lot and, the old FAFO principle. So a couple things that I'm using for references for today's session, also a bit about what I've done. I've got a practice log. Here's a picture of that, what I'm looking at doing. I want to make some progress on the face. Today I'm going to focus on feathering versus glazing, and I'm going to be practicing on heavy-bodied acrylics because I'm pretty new to that. I've got a pile of them over here. I'm really interested in them, so I'm going to be playing around with thinning. I'm going to be playing around with some flow improver, see how things work. But yeah, there we go. So a couple things that I have found useful in exploring a bit about painting black color tones. There's several videos here on YouTube, and I'll link them. This one here in particular I thought was really, really helpful. Also, I'll use a tool, a screen capture tool. In my case, I use Snagit. Doesn't matter what you have. But if somebody is laying out like palettes, colors that they're using, if you take a quick screenshot of that, you can build up a reference on how to deal with things. So here, I've got a whole bunch of different screen captures of different blends and colors that these artists were using to get to their black skin tone. And I'm going to take off and see what I can do with this. So, off to the table. Okay, so I've got my goals written down, but it's always wise to actually kind of have a look at the mini and figure out what I need to do. What do I want to work on? So hopefully this reads okay. I've done basic like volume highlighting, got the forehead, getting the definition around the cheek, parts of the lips, the nose. I think what I want to do is I need to extend this out a bit over this way. And then I want to try, I'm going to need some highlight over here as well at the top of his eyebrow. So I think I'm going to do a bit of something close to this color, extend out my highlighting where I need it, and then I'm going to focus on trying to smooth this transition here on the cheek into this much darker zone. So I'm going to be trying to work probably with mid-tone type colors after I get out of the highlighting. All right, so let's get after it. All right, so I'll bring this back over as I'm getting started here. And I was a dumbass with that paper towel because I got crap on my wet palette. All right, so mid-tone or highlight color here. We're going to start off with some of the browns. And this is back to the heavy acrylic stuff, which is a very, very different color. I'm enjoying a different color, different texture. I'm really enjoying working with them. But it takes a little bit of noodling around to figure out where you're going and what you're doing with them. So the white and the sienna burnt red are not heavy body. Those are just the pro acryls. Now it's time to get some of that highlighting, bring the head around, the zone on the head around, get above the eyebrow, and some of the other things I talked about. Boy, that bit was way too brown. Not brown, yellow. So I was inconsistent with colors there because I grabbed a spot on the palette that was not well blended. It's not the end of the world. I mean, I'll smooth it out, but got different colors than what I first laid down. So I just need to fix that a bit. And now I'm going the other direction. Lila Mev, who I'll link in the show notes, has a great way that really helped of explaining layering and blending that really clicked in my head. If you view the colors, you're starting off with base coat, you're adding subsequent layers on top of that, making each a little smaller. It turns into, you can kind of have the notion of a ziggurat, right? A stepped pyramid. And what I need to do now is smooth the zones between the lines between those different zones. So there are a couple different ways to do that. You can glaze, you can do wet blending. Today, I want to be working with feathering, which is taking small strokes of kind of a color of the two, a combination of the two, right? So middle between the two zones that I'm trying, and small strokes to blur and smooth that line. And so that's what I'm going to be doing across several of these different zones. That's what I'm hoping to knock out. All right, so now I want something a little darker still. So before I was working, that last bit was from this area, that color. Now I've just added in a little more brown. I think I've got that too wet there. All right. Let's see how we do here. It's actually a little too diluted. It's not pulling off of there like I'd like. Okay, so more brown. Now I'm getting into this really dark area. You know what I think I want just a smidge of this burnt sienna. And that stuff's really intense. You can see how much red it adds in there, so I'm trying to get some of that out of there. Let's see how this does. Okay, so I'm somewhat okay with this. It's still rough. Now let's come back up and have a go with these. So I've worked on a little bit of those highlight zones, right? The cheek, a little bit around the head. And the thing is, you work on one of those steps between the layers of the ziggurat, between the two different colors. And then you just move on to the next. And it's the same process. You change colors that you're working with, very little paint on the brush, small, tiny strokes, and just work feathering. Again, I'm not an expert on this. This is me doing FAFO, right? On to the next zone. It didn't suck. Okay, so now I want something darker to work on this line here, so that means a touch of that red and more brown. So now I'm working in here. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, that's okay. The rest of the session is pretty much the same, and you can go over and you can watch the entire 50-minute practice session. It's a separate video, and I just do a few more steps of the same thing, right? Small transitions, working on my feathering, working on my brush control, working on the paint consistency. At the end of practice sessions, you need to close the door on what you started with. We started by writing down some goals, some ideas that we wanted to work on. So go back and close the loop on that. Look at your list of things, see how you did, identify things you were successful at, and mark down what you need to work on the next time you sit down for practice session. The point is, write all of that down in your training log, in your practice log. It's really helpful. So here's me closing the loop on that. Okay, progress on face. I'm pretty happy. I mean, I still don't have the colors where I want them, but this was really good experimenting around. So it's good progress. Fair on tone level. I liked the start, of course. It was 90 phase 2. Good progress on feathering. Still need to some of their strokes. Some has 3 O's, right? And as far as work with eddies, happy for the most part I did with happy with the brush approach. Okay, so I like this red tone here. I think I've got to do something about this too much tan. I'm going to have to look some more pictures. I'm happy with how that is progressing down. So what do I need to improve on more? Tone I need to work on. Smoother strokes need to work on, and just keep getting the reps in. Just got to get the reps in on doing the face work. Really like this piece. Really like this piece. It's a pretty strong story. So I hope you found this interesting and maybe a little bit useful. Here's the images of where I finished up at. I won't recap the goals because I did that over at the workbench. But this notion of working for deliberate practice, remember, go have a look at the Learning How to Learn video. Deliberate practice is important. Write down your goals, work on them, summarize things, and think about what your lessons learned are to take away. And by all means, acknowledge what you did well. That's really important. Thanks for watching. If you find this useful, please consider subscribing. That way you'll get notifications as I continue to drop other new content. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and a like. Let me know in the comments if you've either subscribed or you found this useful, or if you have some constructive criticism. I'm still new at this, and I'm happy to adjust to help folks get more out of my content. But until next time, be kind, learn, experiment, practice. Remember, at the end of the day, it's just paint and plastic.